A couple of months ago, Rolling Stone magazine put out a list of the top 250 guitar players of all time. What we're going to do here today is I'm going to give you their top 10, and I'm going to give you my top 10, and I want you to let me know who has the better list. So coming in at number 10 on Rolling Stone's top 10 guitar players of all time is Duane Allman. I'll put a little picture of him right here. He's a great guitar player. He played for the Allman Brothers, legendary guitar player. I would not put him in the top 10. He is a legendary guitar player, but it doesn't make my top 10. All right, so let's take a look at number 9, Joni Mitchell. I think she's a genius at what she did. She is an incredible musician, but in terms of one of the 10 best guitar players of all time, nothing personal, but not even close to the top 10 list. Now, I will say that everyone in this list is very famous, very talented, so no disrespect to anybody that I'm mentioning here on the list, but Joni Mitchell should not be in the top 10 list. Number 8, we have Rolling Stones had B.B. King. He's not in my top 10. He would be pretty close, though. So anyone that put B.B. King in the top 10, I don't have a problem with. How can you not like B.B. King? He's incredibly talented at singing, guitar playing. He's fantastic. When I listen to him play guitar, it just puts a smile on my face and in my heart. So I don't have a problem with a B.B. King being in the top 10, if that's what you like. For number 7, they had Nile Rodgers, a legendary guitar player, but really making that top 10 list, I don't think so. Not in my book. Like I said, great guy, incredible guitar player, not in the top 10, but at least he's a very famous, well-known guitar player. Number 6, they had Sister Rosetta Tharpe. I've never heard of this person. I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, at least 35 years now. I've been teaching guitar for 24 years full time. I've never heard of this person. Now that could be my problem that I don't know who she is. But to put her in the top 10 list of guitar players of all time is absolutely ridiculous. I will look her up and check her out. Maybe I'll have to eat my words, but when we're talking about here the top 10, we're talking about probably the biggest and most famous guitar players of all time, and certainly she wouldn't even be close to the top 10. Number 5, they had Jeff Beck. I think he is one of the best guitar players of all time, so I don't have a problem. He's not in my top 10 list, but I think he could be in a lot of people's top 10 list. For number 4, they had Eddie Van Halen. He's clearly one of the best guitar players of all time. And when I say that, these lists are kind of more rock oriented. B.B. King isn't rock, but we're not talking about like the best jazz players no one knows of. Like there's been the greatest guitar players to ever live are probably not going to be on this list a whole lot, because a lot of the people on these lists are people that are filling stadiums and that hundreds of millions of people have listened to and bought their albums. So it's a different type of list. But Eddie Van Halen was number 4. Personally, I think he should be higher, but he certainly should be on the list. Number 3, they had Jimmy Page, obviously the guitar player for Led Zeppelin. He definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Number 2, they had Chuck Berry. He is the father of rock and roll. So if anyone deserves to be on kind of a rock and roll list, it's probably him. But he doesn't make the top 10. Yes, he's the father of rock and roll, but guitar. But he's not my top 10. And number 1, they have Jimi Hendrix. I don't have any problem with that. When I made my own list, I struggled between putting Jimmy at number 1 and someone else. But so that is the Rolling Stones top 10 list. I think it's not terrible, but there's probably almost half of them that wouldn't even put in the top 10. But that was their top 10 list. Now let's go ahead and take a look at my top 10 list. All right, so from my top 10 guitarists of all time, coming in at number 10 is Brian May, the guitar player for Queen. I will say the first 9 I was pretty set on, but for the 10th one, I was not sure who I wanted to pick because I have so many favorite guitar players as a kind of a rock and blues guitar player that I just wasn't sure. So my list is kind of more rock oriented, as you'll see, and these are the typical people that you would expect to be on the list. But number 10 is Brian May. I'm going to describe a lot of people on my list. I feel like they have the X factor. There's something about them that makes them insanely special. And that's why, people over time have listened to them so much. And I think Brian May makes that list. His band Queen is one of the most listened to bands of all time. And when I think of a great guitar player, can people sing along with their solos? Did they fill stadiums? Have people been singing their solos for a long time? And definitely Brian May I mean, he fills that spot. You listen to a couple of the solo for Killer Queen, just incredible guitar solos, super talented. Other people, like, I debated on putting Nuno there. I love George Lynch, but there's really hundreds, if not thousands of guitar players, that I personally love that could get into that spot. All right, so that was my number 10. My number 9 is Randy Rhoads. I huge fan. Who isn't a fan of Randy Rhoads? He's an incredible guitar player. I think he was a brilliant, not only was he technically proficient, but he wrote great songs, great guitar solos, and just very, very talented, obviously. All right, for number 8, I have Slash. In the late 80s, when Guns N' Roses came out, I was still into the hair metal stuff. So I kind of didn't get Guns N' Roses at first. I didn't realize that Appetite for Destruction was going to be one of the top 10 classic rock albums of all time. And I don't know that who's a bigger rock star than Slash? You got the whole image. I only ever saw him once in, live in person. And I wanted to see how he was, if he was kind of a sloppy guitar player. I just wasn't sure. And he just slayed it. It was with Velvet Revolver. His guitar, he was playing insanely loud. Just everything about him oozes rock star. And, with all the guitar solos he's done, they're beautiful, they're singable, they're technical. He's a fantastic guitar player. So I think he deserves to be in the top 10 of all time. My number 7 is Angus Young. I don't think we even need to talk about Angus. He's incredible. There's tons of guitar players that can play more technical than him, but in terms of the timing, the rhythm, doing great guitar solos over his body of work, I can't imagine why he can't be in a list of top 10 guitar players of all time. All right, my number 6 is Steve Vai. If you're not too familiar with him, or you think, well, he's not a rock guitar player, even though he does instrumental rock guitar music or whatever you want to consider it. But, I saw him with Whitesnake. I saw him with David Lee Roth. He played for Frank Zappa, Alcatraz, and all you have to do is listen, for the love of God. Like, he has the it factor, or the X factor. There's just certain people, when you listen to them, there's something incredibly special about how they play guitar, and he's clearly one of them. He's certainly one of the best guitar players of all time. Coming in at number 5, I have David Gilmour. He's certainly one of my favorite guitar players of all time, as well as many, tons of other people. What can you say about David Gilmour other than he wrote incredibly beautiful guitar solos that are absolutely perfect for the songs that he was playing? So we have him with Pink Floyd. For number 4, we have Jimmy Page. For a lot of these guys, I'm not going to talk too much about them because we all know who they are. Jimmy Page is one of the best rock guitarists, if not the best of all time. So he's certainly in the top 10, no questions asked. For number 3, I think might be a little controversial, is I have Stevie Ray Vaughan. For me, when I listen to him, he plays, his gift of timing and rhythm is almost unmatched. When you listen to him play Voodoo Child or like Texas Flood or some of his key songs, and he plays guitar as well as anyone has ever played guitar. He just does it in his genre. A lot of people maybe don't like that Texas shuffle kind of vibe. I do. I could listen to him for days. All right, so that was my number 3. My number 2, I wonder if you guys can guess who my top 2 are. You're probably going to guess them. Number 2, now I wrestled at who to put at number 1 and number 2. Because typically I would always put Jimi Hendrix as number 1. But I don't know what kind of mood I was in today. So for number 2, I'm putting Jimi Hendrix. He probably inspired more guitar players to play and changed the way the guitar was played, probably more than anyone ever. But I put him in at number 2. And for number 1, I decided to put Eddie Van Halen. If you don't think Eddie Van Halen's the best guitar player of all time, or at least the rock guitar player, go ahead and listen to his first 3 albums. Listen to all his guitar work and tell me he's not the best guitar player of all time. So those are my top 10 guitar players of all time. I wrestled with some of them, and I just wasn't sure about. I'm sure people are going to be upset that I put Stevie Ray Vaughan in there, even though he's incredible. So what I would like to do, I want to know, who is your favorite guitar players of all time? Let me know, do you disagree with my list? You can create your own list and leave it down below. Let me know if you would swap out one guitar player with another guitar player. But if you're into this kind of thing, take a minute and leave a comment down below with your top 10 list. I would love to see who you guys put in. Obviously, when you do this, you're going to put in, your favorites, I was leaning more towards kind of arena rock. Like almost all these people, almost everyone on the list here, you know, has filled stadiums for long periods of time. So that's kind of what I went with on this list. So leave a comment down below. And if you like this type of thing, make sure you subscribe to my channel.